Hello and welcome to NewsX World. I'm Thomas Porteous. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. The White House says Trump will decide within 2 weeks whether to join the Israel-Iran war. This comes as Iran's foreign minister meets with European counterparts as nuclear talks open in Geneva. Over 200 people are injured in Israel from Iranian strikes, while Hezbollah warns that threats against Khamenei endanger the entire region. One has been killed and at least 14 people are injured after Russian drones hit Ukraine's Black Sea city of Odessa, damaging homes and railway infrastructure. Governor Ole Keeper says civilian sites, including a university and gas pipeline, were struck despite air defense efforts. Gaza's civil defense reports 72 dead, including 21 near an aid site amid ongoing Israeli fire and bombardment since Thursday morning. Israeli troops say they fired warning shots at suspects in Netzarim, but say they're not aware of any injuries. Heavy monsoon rains trigger red alerts in 6 provinces across central and southern China, threatening major disruptions. Officials blame climate change as flash floods put the world's second largest economy on high alert. Kyiv and Moscow carry out a new prisoner swap under the Istanbul deal, mainly involving wounded or ill soldiers from both sides. Zelensky shares images of freed troops, many held since early 2022, while Russia says its prisoners of war will receive treatment. China slams the UK for sending HMS Spey through the Taiwan Strait, calling it a provocation meant to cause trouble. Taiwan dismisses China's claim to the waters and orders heightened alert amid growing military tensions. Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra will visit an army chief she called an opponent in a leaked call as she tries to contain a deepening political crisis. The meeting comes amid public backlash and coalition turmoil over her remarks. A US appeals court says Trump can control the National Guard troops in Los Angeles despite objections from California Governor Gavin Newsom. The panel ruled his actions were lawful even without routing orders through the state governor. Now for our top story, we move to the Middle East. The Israel-Iran conflict enters day 8 with major strikes. According to reports, Israel says it has struck 3 Iranian missile launch platforms and killed the commander preparing the attack. The IDF confirms the targets were set to fire at Israel. The Israeli military says it has bombed a nuclear weapons research center in Tehran. According to the RDF, dozens of targets were hit overnight, including missile production facilities and the headquarters of Iran's SPND program, linked to Iran's old nuclear projects. More than 60 fighter jets carried out the operation. Now in southern Israel, sirens wailed after Iran launched fresh missiles. Defense systems intercepted the projectiles and authorities urged civilians to take shelter. The United States is still weighing its options. President Trump, however, will decide in 2 weeks whether to join the conflict. The White House warns Iran could build a nuclear bomb in just that amount of time. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israel is changing the face of the world through its war with Iran. He claims over half of Iran's missile launches have been destroyed and repeated, and that is all is welcome to help to wipe out Iran's nuclear sites. Meanwhile, in Iran, internet and telephone services have been shut down across the country, with the Iranian government claiming the blackout is needed to protect against possible Israeli cyber attacks. In diplomatic pushes, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio met the UK's David Lammy. Both have agreed Iran must never acquire a nuclear weapon. Lammy now heads to Geneva for crucial talks with his French, German, European Union and Iranian counterparts. Hezbollah's chief says the group will act as we see fit in the Iran-Israel war, adding they are not neutral in the conflict. Meanwhile, according to reports, the Kremlin warns that any US use of tactical nuclear weapons in Iran would be catastrophic. Tensions soar across the region as relentless airstrikes show no sign of showing down. We're now joined by Yeshaya Rosenman, who is an Israeli journalist, and he's located in Jerusalem. Yeshaya, thank you very much for joining us on the program. First of all, I hope everything is safe and well. And how are you feeling with this fresh conflict now escalating on its 8th day now?
Good morning. So yes, Jerusalem is one of the quietest cities now in Israel. To be honest, what we feel here in Israel is not an escalation, but a de-escalation. In other words, on the first nights from last Friday night on, Iran had been shooting over 100 missiles per night, over 90% of which were taken down, but there were still hits on, famously suburbs of Tel Aviv mostly, then on Haifa, and then yesterday. But in recent nights, much fewer missiles have been shot. 3 nights back, it was 10 missiles. 2 nights ago, it was 30. I didn't catch the number last night, but these missiles seem to hit more because they are cluster missiles, in which break up as they land, so they make more damage on the ground. They're not aimed to be precise. They're aimed to cause a lot of damage and casualties. So there were hits, but all in all, the feelings of a de-escalation in Iran. I don't know, whether the attacks are escalating or de-escalating, but the attacks are keeping up to maintain air superiority and strike, as you said, missile production sites, nuclear-related sites in Tehran and recently around Isfahan. So we hope for full victory. We hope it's over soon. I'll mention that the Indian government has just is in the process of evacuating its citizens here in Operation Sindhu.
Yes, and what are your hopes for US involvement? What's the feeling in Israel right now when it comes to Donald Trump? How are you viewing his approach? Also, there's obviously some domestic opposition within his own party. Do you think that has a danger of pushing him back from the decision of involvement in this war? What are your thoughts, Yeshaya?
No, so I think again, Donald Trump has built his reputation as the unpredictable man who you shouldn't mess with. But I think America. My guess is that America will be involved. I don't think America will put boots on the ground. The American government will put boots on the ground, but I think there will be air bombings, possibly on the nuclear site at Fordo or elsewhere. Yes, I think the internal opposition at this point, the polls show, is very weak. Most Republicans, including famously Steve Bannon, are now on board for attacking Iran from the air. America has the means to do it with its bases in the Gulf. And the question is what the end game is, whether it's just destroying Iranian nuclear capabilities or it's hitting the regime hard enough that the Iranian citizens revolt. And the question is what that would look like and what kind of regime would replace them.
Yeshaya, you've obviously got lots of diplomatic talks going on in the background of this. You've had a direct contact between the US and Iran. Donald Trump said that they reached out for talks yesterday. And then today you have the Iranian foreign minister meeting European counterparts in Geneva. What are your thoughts on the diplomatic efforts that are going forward when it comes to Israel's Western allies, that they seem to be pushing, they do seem to be pushing for de-escalation rather than military action in this?
Yes, so initially all the European powers as well as America come out supporting Israel's attack on Iran. Even countries that were not always supportive of Israel, or usually not supportive of Israel, like France had come out in support. And then, as you said, there was all this talk of there now is all the talk of de-escalation and a diplomatic solution. I think these are not clear-headed, these are not coherent suggestions, because the Iranian regime has bound its destiny to the nuclear project. They will not forfeit it. For them, it is the leaders of the Iranian revolutionary regime are intent on destroying Israel as a messianic religious destiny that they see for themselves. So they will not give up on it. And I think that The Iranians are masters of the bizarre negotiations where they can pull a fast one on all these European powers as they have done in the past. So I don't. I think this is a sign of. I think this is a not a correct course. I think in the near term, as the military historian Edward Luttwak had famously written in one of his essays, "Give war a chance." I think while we are already hitting the Iranian military capabilities, the nuclear capabilities, we should do it with full force and hope for the regime to collapse, because I don't see, my personal opinion is that this regime will not change its course. All the negotiations are just ways to bamboozle Western powers.
Yeshaya, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been making claims and warnings for nearly 3 decades that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. For example, one time at the UN General Assembly in September of 2012, he claimed that there was months, possibly a few weeks before they get enough enriched uranium to develop nuclear weapons. Now, that was over 10 years ago. What's saying that if the US does get involved, like Israel does want it to, then it might cause a escalation like the war in Iraq, where these claims are not turn out not to be true?
Yes, so I think that I don't think, first of all, I highly doubt that America will even attempt to put boots on the ground. So the question of American soldiers, there's a difference. I think the distinction to be made is between regime change and nation building. I don't think America will be engaged in nation building. And I think Iran already is a nation. There is a coherent Iranian nationalism rather than tribalism, which is prevalent in Iraq or Afghanistan. So I think America, I think it is quite clear from all indicators that the majority of the Iranian people despise the revolutionary regime. So I think if the regime was removed, if there was a situation where the masses would come out to the streets and revolt, I think the situation would not be a deterioration into chaos and an ISIS-like situation that happened in Iraq. I think it would be a situation of greater coherence and a reduction of the threat to world peace, which is the regime as it is now.
Thank you, Yeshaya. Please stay with us. We have some breaking news from the developing situation. The International Atomic Energy Agency has confirmed that key buildings at Iran's Condab heavy water production plant have been damaged. In a new assessment released by the IAEA, the agency noted that structures, including the critical distillation unit, were impacted. The Condab plant plays a significant role in Iran's nuclear program, producing heavy water used in reactors that yield plutonium as a byproduct. Damage to the distillation unit could affect the plant's operational capacity and raise fresh concerns about nuclear safety and escalation in the region. Yeshaya, I just want to come back to you. Okay. We move, and we will bring you all updates in regards to the developing situation in regards to the ongoing Israeli-Iran conflict. Okay, we have some more breaking news coming in this developing situation. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz has issued a sharp warning to Hezbollah, urging the Lebanese group to stay out of the ongoing Iran-Israel conflict. In a statement released on Friday, Katz declared that Israel has lost patience with groups that threaten its security and warned that any act of terrorism would trigger a forceful response. His remarks came after Hezbollah said it would act as we see fit in the escalating conflict, signalling potential intervention. Katz called Hezbollah a Lebanese proxy of Iran and stressed that any attack would be met with the full strength of the Israeli military, adding, quote, "If there is terrorism, there will be no Hezbollah." Yeshaya, thank you very much for joining us once again. We started off with that bit of breaking news that the IAEA have said about some Iranian production plant that has now been damaged. Do you think that the US intervention is necessary? We've seen a lot of Iran's military defense being depleted from these strikes, and now we're seeing Israel inflicting heavy damage on these production plants and other nuclear facilities. Critics would say that US involvement is not needed to finish this war. What are your thoughts on that, considering the damage that Israel have done already?
Yes, so this is the stance voiced by multiple ministers in the Israeli government, that we don't need, if America wants to join, we trust the judgment of President Trump, but we don't need the Americans. Yes, many have voiced that opinion, that Israel has multiple ways of striking even the hard-to-get facilities at Fordo. Yes.
Yes, and also we have also had a response from Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, in urging Hezbollah, the Lebanese group, to stay out of this conflict. What are your thoughts on the possibility of the Lebanese group Hezbollah possibly getting involved and adding another angle to this ongoing conflict?
Yes, so Hezbollah was always Iran's prized possession in this region. They are the best funded terrorist organization in the world. Iran had been funneling billions upon billions in money and in supplying weapons from Iran, from China, and elsewhere. Israel has taken out, I don't know what percent, but a certain percent of Hezbollah's capabilities, and of course killed the top brass in the Patriot attack as well. But it's an interesting question whether what would it take for them, even now that they are seriously wounded, to once again intervene for Iran. I think it might be, like a suicide attack. Like if the regime is going down in Iran, then they would mount like one last offense to try to save their masters in Iran. Maybe that might be the situation. Again, like I said, I'm not sure what it would take for them to once again intervene. And it's unclear. I think it's dependent on the outcome in Iran itself, what the threat is to the regime.
Yeshaya Rosenman, thank you very much for joining us. Glad you are safe and well. We move over to Europe for our next story. A Russian drone strike on the Ukrainian city of Odessa has left one person dead and at least 14 others injured, according to local authorities. The overnight attack targeted civilian infrastructure, damaging high-rise buildings, a university, a gas pipeline, and Odessa's railway station, a key Black Sea port hub. Governor Oleg Kiper shared images of fires engulfing residential buildings, while emergency services confirmed 10 drone strikes on housing units alone. Ukraine's Air Force reported that Russia launched 86 drones overnight, with 34 shut down and 36 neutralized through electronic warfare, or found to be decoys. 8 locations across the country were hit. In addition to Odessa, Kharkiv also came under attack, where multiple homes were damaged by drones. Ukrainian rail authorities confirmed damage to tracks and power lines at Odessa station, further disrupting the region's logistics. Odessa has been under frequent Russian missile and drone fire since the start of the war, as Moscow continues its assault on Ukraine's coastal infrastructure. We now move over to the Indo-Pacific, where China's military has condemned the sailing of a British warship through the Taiwan Strait as a deliberate attempt to cause trouble, as Taiwan's president ordered stepped-up monitoring in response to Chinese military activities. Britain's Royal Navy has said that the patrol vessel HMS Spey conducted a routine navigation through the narrow waterway that was part of a long-planned deployment and took place in full compliance with international law. China considers the strait to be Chinese waters, while Taiwan, the United States and some of its allies say it is an international waterway. The Eastern Theater Command of China's People's Liberation Army said that the sailing of the ship was public hyping and that its forces followed and monitored the Spey. This comes as Taiwan's defense ministry reported another spike in Chinese movements close to the island over the previous 24 hours, involving 50 aircraft, concentrated in the strait and the top part of the South China Sea. China and the European Union have held high-level trade talks to ease tensions and promote stable relations. China's Commerce Ministry, Wang Wentao, spoke with EU Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic in a video meeting on Thursday. Both sides discussed key issues, including electric vehicle, trade remedies, export controls and market access. The Chinese Commerce Ministry said the talks were in-depth and focused on maintaining healthy economic ties. The meeting comes amid rising trade disputes between Beijing and Brussels. Both China and the European Union agreed to work together to promote a stable and sustainable trade relationship going forwards. Now we move over to Southeast Asia. Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra is set to visit an army commander she called an opponent in a leaked phone call as she battles to defuse a crisis threatening to topple her government. This comes after the Prime Minister was forced to make a public apology as anger flared over the call with former Cambodian leader Hun Sen that appeared online. In the leaked call, Paetongtarn said was heard discussing an ongoing border dispute with Hun Sen. During the discussion, Paetongtarn referred to the Thai army commander in the country's northeast as her opponent, a remark that sparked fierce criticism on social media. The Thai Foreign Ministry summoned the Cambodian ambassador on Thursday to deliver a letter complaining about the leaking of the call. After the leak, Prime Minister's main coalition partner quit, and she faced calls to resign or hold a snap election, throwing the kingdom into a fresh round of political instability as it seeks to boost its spluttering economy and avoid US President Donald Trump's swinging trade tariffs. Here's what the Thai Prime Minister has said about the situation.
ไทยพี่น้องประชาชนนะคะคนไทยทุกๆคนที่มีในเรื่องของกรณีที่มีคลิปเสียงหลุดออกมาระหว่างที่ดิฉันคุยกับผู้นำทางกัมพูชานะคะก็จริงๆเป็นเรื่องประเทศไทยค่ะเพื่อมายื่นหนังสือประท้วงนะคะเพื่อแสดงความผิดหวังอย่างยิ่งต่อการกระทำของผู้นำกัมพูชาค่ะอันนี้จริงๆทั่วโลกไม่มีใครทำแบบนี้นะคะที่ผู้นำคุยกันไม่ว่าจะเป็นประเทศใหญ่ๆที่มีการตกลงกันหรือมีการพูดคุยเจรจาใดๆเนี่ยรัฐบาลไทยนะคะก็กับกองทัพนะคะก็ขอแสดงความรับผิดชอบในเรื่องของการปกป้องอธิปไตยนะคะที่เรากำลังดูแลร่วมกันนะคะแล้วก็ขอยืนยันอีกครั้งว่าทางรัฐบาลกับกองทัพเองเป็นหนึ่งเดียวกันก็อยากให้พี่น้องประชาชนเป็นหนึ่งเดียวกับเราด้วย
Now let's turn to Europe. Bahrain's Crown Prince, His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad, met with UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer during an official visit to London. The two leaders reaffirmed the deepening ties between Bahrain and the United Kingdom, grounded in strategic partnerships and shared values championed by King Hamad and King Charles. The meeting saw the signing of two major agreements: a £2 billion strategic investment partnership aimed at job creation and growth in key sectors, and a new defence cooperation accord to enhance joint military training and naval ties. Prince Salman welcomed the UK's participation in the Comprehensive Security Integration and Prosperity Agreement and stressed the need to strengthen cooperation on security, trade and diplomacy. Both leaders discussed the Israel-Iran escalation, calling for urgent de-escalation, a Gaza ceasefire, humanitarian access and hostage release. The UK Prime Minister also congratulated Bahrain on its UN Security Council seat for 2026 to 2027, with both sides agreeing to boost diplomatic efforts globally. Now we turn to South America. Colombian Senator Miguel Uribe Turbay is fighting for his life following brain surgery, according to a statement by his wife. Miguel Uribe has been hospitalized since he was shot in the head earlier this month during a campaign event. He emerged from emergency surgery performed on June the 16th in extremely critical condition, as reported by the Santa Fe Foundation Clinic. Outside the Santa Fe Foundation Clinic, Tarazona expressed her gratitude for the outpouring of prayers and support from Colombians. Here's what she said.
Tengo que decirles que está librando la batalla más difícil que habíamos transitado hasta el día de hoy. Por eso salgo para pedirle a cada uno de los colombianos nuevamente, apelando a su buen corazón, al amor que sienten por Miguel, por mi familia y por Colombia, que hagamos una oración masiva.
This comes as a fourth suspect has been arrested on suspicion of involvement in the attempted assassination of the Colombian presidential candidate. Uribe was shot twice in the head and once in the leg by a 15-year-old suspected hitman while giving a campaign speech on June the 7th. According to reports, prosecutors have refused to say how they believed the latest suspect was involved in the plot. Others in custody include an alleged gunman, the driver of the car that brought him to the scene, and the person who provided the shooter with the gun. The suspect will appear today before a judge who will determine the charges against him. We stay in the region. Colombia has officially joined the BRICS-backed New Development Bank in a major shift in its foreign and financial policy. The announcement was made by Foreign Minister Laura Sarabia, who called the move a historic milestone for the nation. The decision follows President Gustavo Petro's request to bank President Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil, during his visit to Shanghai in May. The New Development Bank, formed by Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, provides funding for infrastructure and clean energy projects in developing countries. Colombia aims to tap into these resources to fund projects like a new Pacific Atlanta rail and canal link, designed to reduce dependence on the Panama Canal. This move also signals a broader strategy to diversify economic partnerships, reducing reliance on the United States, which currently accounts for around 30% of Colombia's trade. With its entry into the bank, Colombia gains access to alternative funding channels for modernization and growth. This is what the Colombian Foreign Minister had to say about joining.
El presidente Petro presentó la petición en Shanghái frente a la presidenta Dilma Rousseff y hoy hemos sido notificados del ingreso oficial de Colombia al Banco de Desarrollo de los BRIC. Este es un hito no solo financiero, sino histórico en materia de política exterior. Y esto nos sirve principalmente para buscar fuentes de financiación para proyectos de transformación territorial, proyectos de infraestructura, proyectos de acueductos, de transportes férreos. Específicamente para eso sirve y estaremos buscando los mejores proyectos.
Now we move on. A Dominican court has granted bail to 2 nightclub owners accused of manslaughter after a roof collapsed on hundreds of revelers, killing 236 people. Wilson owners, the court granted the siblings bail of 50 million pesos, nearly $845,000 each. According to the defense attorney, they are not allowed to leave the country and have to report to authorities periodically. Nightclub owner Antonio Espalitiat had said afterwards that the roof of the storied venue had been leaking for years, but had never been inspected by authorities. Prosecutors accused him and his sister of immense irresponsibility and negligence for failing to carry out the repairs. Here's what the head of the Director of Prosecution of the Public Prosecutor's Office had to say.
No estamos de acuerdo con la medida de coerción que ha impuesto el tribunal a los imputados. Creemos que el tribunal no ha valorado en su justa dimensión los hechos. Creemos que el tribunal no valoró correctamente la magnitud del daño que ha traído para la sociedad dominicana estos hechos, pero sobre todo el daño que significa para 235 personas que murieron, más de 180 personas que resultaron heridas y más de 130 niños que quedaron huérfanos como consecuencia de esta conducta y como consecuencia del comportamiento de Antonio y Maribel Espaillat, que pusieron sobre el interés de las personas que ahí estaban, de las que acudían normalmente a esa discoteca, su interés económico.
Now let's move over to California, where a US appeals court has ruled that President Donald Trump can continue to exert control over California's National Guard troops, despite objections from Governor Gavin Newsom. The three-judge panel unanimously upheld Trump's authority, stating his failure to issue the order through the governor, but did not invalidate his legal command. This decision comes as the Trump administration orders an additional 2,000 California National Guard troops to Los Angeles under federal command. This move follows days of anti-ICE protests across the city, which have mostly subsided, according to the LAPD, with no arrests since Saturday. LA Mayor Karen Bass has lifted the city's nighttime curfew, praising the combined efforts to prevent violence and damage. Meanwhile, the LA City Council has approved a $5 million loan to help cover police overtime during the protest response. Officials say the city has spent nearly $20 million on demonstration management, with most funds going to the LAPD. Well, that's all we have time for, and we will continue to bring you more international news updates. Thank you.